"I'm so glad we could all be here," Daniel said, leaning back in his chair like he was already king of the manor. He lifted his glass, no shame at all, and toasted the air. "To new beginnings." I didn't lift mine. I reached instead for the navy envelope in my purse, the one with his name on it in my late husband's handwriting. "Before we start," I said, setting it on the polished oak, "you should open this." He blinked, still smiling. "What's this, Carol? A love letter from Dad?" I said nothing, just folded my hands over the velvet box in my lap, the one Marla had given back to me 13 years ago. She'd meant it as a goodbye. I'd kept it as a reminder. Daniel tore the envelope open with dramatic flair. The attorney, Miriam Howard, a steady woman in a cranberry blazer, watched closely. His eyes moved across the page, slowly at first, then faster. His smile held for a beat too long. "What is this?" he asked. "You know what it is," I said quietly. He looked up. The color drained from his face. This isn't... He wouldn't... This gives everything to... Marla?" Miriam cleared her throat. "Legally, Mr. Whitaker, your father's wishes were updated on March 9th. Carol, as executor, was present." Daniel's fingers crushed the paper. "That was after the stroke." "No," I said. "It was 2 days before, in full clarity." Behind him, the fireplace crackled. It was warm in that room, but the air had turned icy. He turned toward the door just as it opened. Marla stepped in. She hadn't been invited. She hadn't known. She was wearing the same forest green coat she wore the last time I saw her, over coffee, after the divorce was final. "I didn't... Carol, why am I here?" I rose. Slowly, my knees ached, but I kept my spine straight. "Because it's yours," I said, placing the velvet box in her hand. Daniel's voice rose. "This is insane. She's not family." I turned to him, Assie. "She was. She stayed family, even after you threw her out." Marla stared at me, stunned. The box trembled in her hand. And then Miriam spoke again. "We haven't yet reviewed the final clause." Daniel's voice cracked. "What clause?" Miriam adjusted her glasses. "The clause that only activates if the heir contests." He froze. Marla opened the box. Inside was the key. To the lake house. To everything. And I hadn't even told her the real reason yet. The one that was waiting inside the linen closet, sealed in a manila folder, with her name written in my husband's final handwriting. And a single line below it. "He never stopped loving you." She followed me in silence. The same house, the same pine floors. But Marla's shoes made a different sound, tentative, as if she weren't sure she had the right to be there. "Carol," she said gently, "I don't understand. Why are you doing this?" I didn't answer. I walked past the front room where the afternoon light hit the rug in stripes, past the stairs where I used to leave little bowls of candy when Daniel and Marla still lived upstairs, past the frame where their wedding photo used to hang. "I don't need the house," she said. "I'm not here for the money." I paused in the hallway. "I know." She swallowed. "Then why?" I turned. "Do you remember the night he threw you out?" Her face shifted. The years hadn't touched her eyes. They still held that quiet, bookish intensity, but something behind them broke for a second. "I remember," she said. "You came here," I said, "with that box in your coat pocket." "I was going to throw it in the river," she whispered, "but I couldn't." "You left it on the porch. I found it the next morning." She blinked. I thought maybe you hated me." I looked at her. "I did for about an hour. Then I remembered what you did." "What I did?" I didn't reply. I turned back to the stairs. The linen closet was at the end of the hall. Third step creaked, always had. I climbed it slowly, like the weight of 13 years lived in each tread. Marla stayed at the bottom. "You said something just now," I said without turning. Silence. "Say it again." She took a breath. "I'm not here for the money." I opened the closet door. The folder was right where I'd left it, behind the stack of old linens. Top corner, labeled in my handwriting, Marla. I took it out, felt the heaviness of it, more than paper. Behind me, her voice rose. "Carol, he wrote me a letter, years ago. I never told anyone." I turned. She was shaking. "I never cashed the check inside. I couldn't. I thought if I took anything from him, it would make the love we had feel cheap." I stared at her. "You kept it?" I asked. She nodded. Every single word. And I knew then. She had no idea what was inside this folder. She sat at the kitchen table like it wasn't real. The envelope sat between us, a faded manila thing with my handwriting on the tab. Marla, nothing else. "Are you sure?" she asked. I slid it toward her. "He wrote that the week after you left." Her fingers hovered. Then she opened it, a letter on yellow-lined paper, my husband's uneven scrawl, soft at the edges. She read it in silence. Then came the photo, an old grainy print, black and white, with a date at the bottom, November 12th. She touched it gently. The last item was folded twice. She opened it, and her breath caught. An ultrasound. "I never sent this," she whispered. "You left it in the box." She looked up, her eyes wide. "You opened it?" "Of course I did. The morning after you left. You think I'd leave something like that outside in the cold?" Marla's hands trembled. She clutched the paper like it might disappear. "I lost it," she said softly. "That baby. 2 weeks later." "I know." She looked at me, startled. "You called," I said. "You hung up before saying a word, but I knew it was you." Her voice cracked. "I couldn't face him." I leaned back in the chair. "He cried that night, for the first time since his mother died." She stared down at the letter. Her fingers traced the words. "He said I broke his heart." "He said he deserved it," I said. "That he hadn't listened. That he let Daniel become the kind of man who could drive you away." Silence. The heater hummed. A truck passed outside, trailing the scent of diesel. Marla folded the letter slowly. "He knew I was pregnant?" I nodded. "He figured it out? Said you were quiet? Different. He was going to ask. Then you were gone." Her whisper came so faint I almost missed it. "And he never told Daniel?" I shook my head. "He said that kind of truth doesn't belong to cowards." Marla stood slowly, her face pale, eyes glistening. "Carol, why did you keep this all these years?" I looked down at the table. "Because he asked me to. The last line of the letter says, 'Tell her when I'm gone.'" And just then, a sound came from the hallway. Light footsteps. Marla froze. "Are you expecting someone?" she whispered. I stood, my heart thudding. "No." The footsteps padded closer. Small, light, familiar. Marla stepped back as the living room door creaked open. And there she was. "Abby?" I crossed the room quickly. "Sweetheart, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be with your mom." She shrugged, setting her backpack down like she did it every day. "Mom had a migraine, said I could walk here. I wanted to see you." I knelt to hug her, heart still racing. "You scared me." She hugged me tight, then glanced past my shoulder. Her eyes landed on Marla. Long pause. "Who's she?" Before I could speak, Marla stepped forward. "I'm a friend of your grandma's." Abby tilted her head. "Are you the lady from the photo?" My throat caught. Marla blinked. "What photo?" Abby fished in her coat pocket. "There was a picture in Grandpa's drawer, with his watch and that metal thing. He let me play with the old buttons once. I saw it. You were sitting by a lake, wearing a green dress." Grandpa was smiling. Marla went pale. I spoke carefully. "That drawer was locked." Abby shrugged. "The lock's weird. You can lift the corner and—" "Never mind." Marla knelt down. "You saw me? In the photo?" Abby nodded. "Grandpa looked really happy." A beat of silence. Then the front door opened. Hard. Daniel. He stood there, eyes wild, breath sharp from the cold. His gaze locked on Marla, then dropped to Abby. "What the hell is going on?" Abby froze. I stepped between them instinctively. "Daniel, keep your voice down." But it was too late. Marla stood slowly. She looked at him with a calm I didn't expect. Daniel looked at her like she'd just risen from the grave. "You gave her the house?" he hissed. "And now she's talking to my daughter?" "Your daughter," Marla said softly, "has more kindness than you ever learned." His jaw clenched. Then his eyes fell on the envelope still on the table. He hadn't seen the ultrasound yet. Not yet. Daniel's eyes darted to the folder. "What is that?" he barked. Marla didn't speak. I moved to cover the papers, but it was too late. He snatched the ultrasound, stared, confused at first. Then something clicked. He looked up, stunned. "Is this—" "No, that's not—" "It's mine," Marla said quietly. "From 13 years ago." Daniel's face twisted. "You— What the hell is this supposed to be? Some guilt stunt?" "No," I said. "It's a truth you never had the strength to face." He slammed the paper down. "You kept this from me?" "You both did?" Marla's voice shook. "You threw me out before I could say a word." Daniel laughed bitterly. "Oh, so now I'm the villain in some tragic soap opera." "You always were," I said. He stared at me, stunned, like I'd slapped him. "You've never forgiven me," he said, "even after Dad died." "I forgave you," I said, "but I didn't forget what you did. To her. To him." He shook his head. "This is unbelievable. You're siding with her over your own son." "I'm siding with truth," I said, "and your father." Abby sat quietly on the staircase, her arms around her knees. "Dad?" she said softly. "Did I have a brother?" The room stilled. Daniel looked like someone had punched him. "No," he said too fast. "No, that's not what this is." Marla's voice cracked. "You almost did." Abby's eyes filled. Daniel turned to me, wild. "You gave her everything. Our family's home, our future. Based on this?" "Based on who stayed when you left," I said. He scoffed, grabbed his phone. "You think I'll let this stand? I'm calling my lawyer." He paced the room, thumb moving fast. Then he paused, and his face changed. He wasn't calling his lawyer. He was calling him. The last person I ever wanted to hear that voice again. And as he pressed the phone to his ear, he smiled, cold and triumphant. "Hey," he said, "you're not going to believe what Carol just did." "Yeah," Daniel said into the phone, pacing like a caged dog. "She gave it all to Marla. The house, the accounts, even the lake cabin." Pause. "She says Dad updated everything before the stroke." His lips curled into a smirk. "I knew you'd want in." Another pause. Then, "Good. Come tomorrow. We'll fix this." He ended the call with a snap. I leaned against the doorframe, exhausted. "You called Andrew," I said flatly. Daniel turned. "Of course I did. He's not thrilled about being disinherited either." "You haven't spoken to him in 8 years. He shrugged. "Doesn't mean we can't work together now." Marla crossed her arms. "He's not like your father." Daniel shot her a look. "You don't know him." "I know enough." I closed my eyes, letting the memory pull me under. The first time I met Andrew, he was 17. Cold eyes, polite smile. He came with his mother, just once. The visit ended in silence. That night, your father sat in the garage for 3 hours, pretending to fix a clock that didn't tick. I brought him soup. He never touched it. "He's dangerous," he told me once quietly. "Different. He doesn't love people, he uses them." Back in the present, Daniel grabbed his coat. "We'll be back tomorrow, with legal counsel. Don't touch a thing." As he moved toward the door, Abby spoke. "I found something at Grandpa's." We all turned. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a worn photo, bent at the corners. I took it from the drawer, the one with his medals. I reached for it, but Marla was already stepping forward. She took the photo gently, looked at it, and her breath hitched. Then she passed it to me. There we were, by the lake, My husband on the dock, holding a fishing rod. Marla, younger, in that green dress, smiling, and in the corner, almost out of frame, Andrew, watching them, watching her. I stared at it, and for the first time in 13 years, I realized that photo wasn't taken by chance. It was taken by someone who wanted to remember exactly where everyone stood. I stared at the photo long after everyone else had looked away. Andrew, behind them, leaning against a tree, half-shadowed but unmistakable, and staring. Not at the lake, not at my husband, at Marla. I rose, my knees stiff, and went to the hall closet. Inside, behind the linens, was a steel lockbox. I hadn't opened it since the year after the funeral. I'd almost forgotten the combination. Almost. Click. Inside, passports, old insurance forms, and a folder marked Private, written in my husband's tidy printing. But tucked beneath was something else. A letter. No return address. No signature. Typed. Cold. You made your choice. I'll wait my turn. I handed it to Marla. Her face went pale. Is this? I nodded. We never proved it, but it came 3 days after your last visit to the lake house. She sat down slowly. That summer came back in pieces. You were supposed to be there just a week, Marla. A little time away from Daniel. You brought books, walked barefoot by the dock. And Andrew, he happened to be passing through. He stayed in town, but came by often, too often. There was a bonfire. You laughed. He didn't. That night, I remember you came into the house late, your face pale, your shoulders tense. You didn't say anything. You just asked if you could sleep in the guest room instead of the cottage. Now, sitting on my living room sofa, Marla said it aloud. He followed me once, at night. Abby looked up sharply. Who? Marla glanced at her, then back at me. Andrew? The name sat in the air like a dare. I folded the letter, slid it back into the box. I should have told your father, I said. Marla shook her head. He knew. He tried to keep me safe. That's why he kept that photo. I nodded slowly, but I didn't tell her the worst part. The real reason that photo chilled me. It was taken from my camera, and I never remembered clicking the shutter. We sat around the coffee table, the lockbox between us like a loaded weapon. I told them about the camera. It was mine, I said, but I lost it for 3 days that July. You didn't lose it, Marla murmured. He borrowed it. Abby, hunched on the floor, ran her fingers along the lining of the box. Wait, she said. There's something taped here. She peeled back the fabric, a black flash drive. My stomach turned. We stared at it like it might hiss. Should we? Marla asked. I nodded. I pulled out my laptop. It was old and slow, but it lit up after a few tense seconds. The flash drive clicked in. 6 files, JPEGs, all dated that same week at the lake. I opened the first. Marla on the dock, reading, zoomed in, too far for a casual photo. The next, Marla through the kitchen window, washing a plate, her shoulders tense. The third, her walking toward the woods, alone. Then, Marla asleep in the cottage's little twin bed, curtains half closed, photo taken from outside. Marla gasped. How? That window was high. I clicked the 5th, a long-distance shot of the main house porch, my husband and I sitting in our rockers, talking. But in the lower corner, barely visible, was the outline of a second person, not with us, watching us. Someone took these, I said, my voice dry. Not for memories, for something else. The 6th file loaded slowly. Abby leaned closer. It was Marla again, sitting on the edge of the dock, early morning, mist on the water. But this time, she wasn't alone, a figure behind her. Just entering the frame, not clear, not sharp, but tall, male, and close enough to touch her. Marla's voice barely rose above a whisper. That wasn't Daniel. I didn't say anything, because I already knew who it was. I tucked the flash drive back into the folder and sealed it with a rubber band. For Marla, if anything happens. The label stared back at me, a relic from a time I thought I'd buried. Marla didn't speak. She just stared at the screen, her hands balled into fists. I should have told someone, she said finally. You tried, I replied. You told me. That was enough. Her voice dropped. Maybe I should tell Abby. I shook my head. Not yet. Let her keep her softness a little longer. Marla looked toward the staircase where Abby had disappeared minutes ago. Her eyes softened, but only slightly. She deserves the truth. She will get it, I said. But right now, she deserves safety. The knock came like a punctuation mark. 3 short raps. Firm. Precise. Not Daniel. I opened the door to find Miriam on my porch, holding a leather portfolio, her cheeks flushed from the cold. I'm sorry for coming unannounced, she said, stepping inside. You're always welcome, I replied. Is it Andrew? She nodded grimly. He's already filed an injunction. Probate court got the paperwork this morning. He's contesting the will, claims undue influence and mental incapacity. Marla winced. Of course he is, I muttered. Miriam looked at me. He's not doing this alone. He has funding, and he's moving fast. I know how he works, I said. Miriam hesitated, then reached into her coat and pulled out another envelope, cream-colored, sealed with wax. This, she said, was given to me by your husband, years ago. He told me to deliver it if Andrew ever made a legal move. I took the envelope with shaking hands. It was heavier than it looked. Miriam looked me dead in the eye. He said if this moment came, you'd know exactly what to do next. I nodded. But I didn't feel ready. Not at all. I closed the den door behind me and sat down slowly, the envelope on my lap. I hadn't seen that wax seal in years, my husband's initials stamped into it with his old brass signet ring, the one he wore even in hospice. I broke the seal. Inside were 3 things: a letter, folded twice, a small safe deposit box key, number 4117, and a photograph. I opened the letter first. My husband's handwriting was tired but clear. Carol. If Andrew is reading this, then something's gone wrong. And I'm sorry I had to leave this to you, but you were always the one who saw him coming before I did. If he's contesting the will, there's only one way to stop him. The truth. The kind only he can't bury. Go to the bank, box 417. You'll know what to do with what you find. But don't do it alone. Bring Marla. She'll understand when she sees it. Daniel won't. Not yet, but he will someday. And Abby? Protect her. That's all I ask. M. My hands trembled. I unfolded the photo. 2 men, a grainy outdoor shot. Andrew on the left, smiling, almost smug. The other man wore a red windbreaker, sunglasses, average looking. But when I showed it to Marla, her reaction was immediate. That's him. Who? My landlord, back in Larkspur. The one who said someone broke into my apartment, but nothing was taken. She looked at me, her skin gone pale. You think Andrew sent him? I think Andrew never stopped keeping tabs on you, I said. Miriam leaned forward. What's in that box? She asked. I don't know, I admitted, but it scared him enough to hide it off sight. Miriam looked at her watch. We go tomorrow morning, first thing. She looked at me sharply. No delays. If we're going to stop him, we need whatever's in that box. I nodded slowly, closing the envelope. The key rested cold in my palm. It felt like the start of a war. The bank vault felt colder than usual, or maybe it was just my nerves. The walls were lined with small steel doors, each indistinguishable except for a number. 417 was on the lower row. I knelt. The key slid in cleanly. I turned it and held my breath. Inside was a tidy stack, a padded envelope, a bundle of papers wrapped in twine, and something unexpected. A cassette tape. I held it up. A tape? Marla asked. Who even has those anymore? The label was handwritten, A. Whitaker, 2006. Miriam took it gently. "I'll get this digitized today." We sat in the small privacy room. I opened the envelope first. Inside, wire transfer receipts, all international. France, Belgium, Cayman Islands. Amounts ranged from $10,000 to over $400,000, all under names I didn't recognize. "These aren't your husband's accounts," Miriam said quietly. "No," I agreed. "These are Andrew's." The twine-bound papers came last, medical files. Marla leaned in. "Psychiatric intake, January 2006, she read aloud. "Patient, Andrew Whitaker." Her hand gripped the edge of the table. Miriam scanned the diagnosis line. "Borderline psychopathy," she murmured. "And a history of manipulation and compulsive deception." I looked at Marla. Her face had gone pale. "That's what he was hiding," she said. "That's why he always seemed off." I reached across the table and took her hand. Miriam's phone buzzed. "It's ready," she said. "The digitized file. They just emailed it." She clicked the link on her laptop. A player appeared on the screen. The file loaded. She pressed play. The audio crackled, then settled, and then we heard it. Andrew's voice, unmistakable, calm, smug, slightly amused. "You wanted the truth," he said. "Fine, here it is." The tape hissed for a moment. Then, Andrew's voice. "I never meant to be part of that family," he said. "They dragged me in, made me sit through holidays, pretend we were something we weren't." His voice was level, flat, like a business presentation. "I learned early, if you smiled enough, no one asked questions." Click. A pause. Then more. Marla was different. Quiet. Watchful. She'd look right past Daniel. That made her interesting. Marla stiffened beside me. I sat across from her at dinner once and wondered what she'd do if I moved closer. I didn't. Not then. But I watched. That week at the lake, she didn't even know I was there most of the time. Marla closed her eyes. "He knew," Andrew continued. "The old man. He saw it. I think he thought he could fix it with silence." Another click. More static. "He came to me one night, said he wanted me gone. I told him, 'Either you clean house or I will.' The words landed like punches. He never could stomach the hard choices." I stared at the screen, bile rising in my throat. "I took what I needed," Andrew said. "Money, access. I knew where the cracks were. Daniel was always eager to please. He made a good front." Then a strange pause, a shift in tone. "And now there's the girl." My heart stopped. "Abby," he said softly. "She looks just like her." Silence. Click. Static. Then nothing. The file ended. We sat frozen. Marla whispered, "He's watching her." I nodded. Not just a will contest now. It was a warning. And a countdown. We didn't speak on the drive home. The tape haunted the silence between us. When we pulled into the driveway, I knew something was wrong. The front door stood slightly open. "I locked that," I whispered. Marla pushed past me, faster than I've seen her move in years. Inside, nothing looked broken, no signs of forced entry, but something was off. The air felt disturbed, like someone had breathed too heavily in every room. Marla went straight to the mantel. "The box," she said. "It's moved." The velvet box, once centered, was now half shoved toward the edge. A message, not theft. Upstairs, I found Abby's bedroom door ajar, her bed made, her window cracked open. Empty. My chest seized. I grabbed the phone and called her mother. Voicemail. Marla looked at me, panicked. "She always walks here after school. She said she would today." Then the landline rang. I jumped. Miriam picked it up first, eyes narrowing. "Who is this?" Pause. She went pale. Put it on speaker, I said. She did. Andrew's voice poured through. Relax, he said. She's perfectly safe, for now. Marla gasped. I gripped the edge of the table. You bastard, I said. Now, Andrew purred. Let's not get dramatic. This is just business. What do you want? Miriam asked, voice steady. Simple, he said. Withdraw the contest. Sign everything over. No more tricks. No more secrets. You're threatening a child, I snapped. She's not hurt, he said calmly. Yet. My skin crawled. You have 48 hours, he continued. Call off the lawyers, or you'll lose more than a house. Then, faintly, just before the call ended, Grandma? Abby's voice, small, scared. Then, click. Silence. The officers were polite, but useless. No sign of struggle, one said, scribbling. Maybe she left willingly. She's 12, I snapped. She wouldn't leave with him. They nodded, said they'd keep an eye out. Then left. Miriam paced the living room. We need private security, someone who's not bound by procedure. I nodded. Call whoever you trust. But Marla shook her head. He doesn't want a ransom, she said quietly. He wants control. He wants to win. I looked at her. So we give him what he thinks he wants. She met my eyes. And take it back. We laid out the plan. Pretend to withdraw the will contest. Arrange a meeting. Use the bank records, the diagnosis, and the tape as leverage. But most importantly, record everything. Marla would play the part of the reluctant heir. Miriam would document. I'd handle the final handoff. But first, we had to find Abby. I searched her room again, desperate for something we'd missed. And I found it, a folded index card wedged behind the dresser. Carol! I called out. It was one of her old flashcards, from 2nd grade, the word trust written in crooked purple marker. But below it, in smaller print, Abby's handwriting now. He said you'd find this. My chest tightened. She left us a sign, I whispered. Marla read it, then looked toward the window. He's letting her leave a trail. Why? Miriam asked. Because he thinks we won't follow it right, Marla said. Because he thinks he's smarter than all of us. Then, a knock. Not at the front, not at the side. The back door. We froze, and a shadow moved across the kitchen window. I opened the back door with my heart in my throat. But it wasn't Andrew. It was Daniel. His eyes were bloodshot, his breath fogged in the night air. In his hands, Abby's backpack. She left this in my car, he said. We pulled him inside fast. Marla hovered close. Where is she? Where's Andrew? Daniel raised both palms. I don't know, I swear. Then why do you have her bag? I didn't know it was hers until I opened it at a red light, he said. He must have stashed it under the seat when I stopped for gas. My chest tightened. So you saw him today? Daniel nodded. He showed up at my place, said he wanted to reconnect. He was off, asked questions about Dad, about Marla, about the lake. He looked up, confused and scared. I followed him when he left. I don't know why. Just gut instinct, but I lost him near the old train yard. Miriam stepped forward. You need to hear something. We sat him down. She played the file. Andrew's voice filled the room again. As it played, Daniel's face changed, from doubt to dread to something else, guilt. When it ended, no one spoke. Finally, Daniel leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I thought something was wrong back then, he said. That summer, at the lake. You said nothing, Marla whispered. I didn't want to believe it, he muttered. Didn't want to see it. You chose not to see it, I said. He didn't argue. After a long silence, he looked up. What do you need me to do? Marla answered. Tell the truth, she said, about everything. She held his gaze. Even what you buried. Daniel sat still, the weight of the room pressing down on him. He spoke quietly. That summer, I found one of your scarves, he said to Marla, in Andrew's bag. Marla blinked. I thought I'd lost it, she whispered. I asked him about it, Daniel continued. He said he borrowed it, smiled like it was funny. Marla's hands trembled. I didn't tell Dad, Daniel said. Not right away, but he found out. I think from Mom. She saw me shaking. I remembered that week, how suddenly Andrew had to leave mid-visit. No goodbye. Dad told him to go, Daniel said. Said if he stayed, there'd be consequences. And you stayed silent, I said. I was scared, he admitted. And I didn't want to believe it. Marla's voice cracked. You let me think I was crazy. I know, he said, and I'm sorry. In the silence that followed, Miriam's phone chimed. She looked up sharply. I found something, she said. She held out her tablet. Andrew used a shell company to rent properties under false names. One of them's local. She showed us the address. I knew it instantly, an abandoned house near the Orchard Road. Empty for years, supposedly. Marla stood. We go now. Daniel grabbed his coat. I'm coming too. Miriam pulled out the recorder, the safe deposit records, and the medical file. Let's bring everything. The drive was tense. The house sat at the end of a gravel road, half-eaten by ivy, windows shuttered, except one. Upstairs, a single light on. And behind the curtain, a shadow. Watching. The gravel crunched beneath our tires as we parked down the hill. No neighbors for half a mile. Miriam handed out flashlights, switched to red beam. Less visible from inside, she said. Daniel and Miriam crept around back. Marla and I took the porch. Each step groaned under our weight. The door, unlocked. No alarm. We exchanged a glance. Inside, it smelled of mildew and old wood. But someone had been living here. On the kitchen counter, an open can of soup. On the couch, Abby's pink hoodie. Marla picked it up, fingers trembling. She didn't say a word. Then, a thump. Upstairs. I turned off my flashlight. We waited. Another sound. This time, a voice. Daniel's signal from the hall. We moved silently up the stairs. A light glowed beneath the far bedroom door, murmuring. One voice, male, Andrew. No, they won't hurt you, he was saying. They just don't understand. But you will. You're like me. My blood ran cold. Marla reached into her coat and tapped the recorder. Red light on. Miriam handed me the file, the diagnosis notarized. We were ready. Then the door opened. Andrew stood in the frame. He looked older, gaunter, but the smirk was the same. Well, he said, eyes scanning each of us. Looks like the family finally got together. Abby appeared behind him, eyes wide, tears just beginning to well. Marla stepped forward. Let her go. Andrew tilted his head. Now why would I do that? Andrew leaned against the doorframe like it was his stage. You all showed up, he said, almost amused. Finally, Marla's voice was steady. Let her go. She's safe, he replied. I've fed her, kept her warm, she's fine. She's 12, I snapped. She's not yours to keep. Andrew smirked. She came willingly. Because you lied, Marla said, like you always do. Miriam held up the folder. We have the medical report, the tape, the transfers. He scoffed. You think paperwork scares me? No, she said. We think truth scares you. Andrew's eyes flickered. Daniel stepped forward, voice low. Why did Dad send you away, Andrew? Because he was weak, Andrew snarled. Because he believed her. He jabbed a finger at Marla. I was set up. She wanted attention. Marla took one step forward. You took my scarf. You watched me sleep. You stood outside my window and smiled. Abby flinched. Is it true? She whispered. Andrew turned toward her. Sweetheart, Is it true? She asked again, louder. Daniel knelt beside her. It is, he said. I knew back then. I just didn't want it to be real. Andrew's expression broke. A flicker of something. Rage, maybe. Or fear. You lied, Abby whispered, backing away. Andrew's hand moved. Fast, into his coat. We all reacted at once. Daniel lunged. "He's got something!" The world exploded into motion. Chairs scraped. Something fell. And Abby screamed. The next moments blurred. Daniel slammed into Andrew, both of them crashing against the floorboards. A metal object skittered across the hardwood. Miriam dove for it. Not a gun, a recorder. Andrew had been trying to destroy the audio. He grunted under Daniel's weight, twisting, furious. "You don't understand," he spat. "You never understood." Daniel pinned his arm. "No, Andrew, I finally do." I pulled Abby into my arms. She clung to me down, her body shaking. "It's okay," I whispered. "It's over." But I wasn't sure I believed it. Not yet. Miriam held up the recorder. "Still works," she said. "I got the files off before we came." Red and blue lights flickered through the window. She'd triggered a silent alert when we first stepped inside. The police arrived in under 2 minutes. Andrew didn't resist, didn't speak. As they cuffed him and let him out, he turned once, just once, to Abby. "You're more like me than you know," he said. Daniel stepped forward, fists clenched. I caught his arm. "Not here," I said. He exhaled slowly, then nodded. Back home. The silence felt deafening. We sat in the living room, blankets over our knees. Abby finally slept, her head in my lap. Marla held a sealed envelope, one of the last things from the will. She opened it with trembling fingers. Inside, just a note, in our husband's handwriting. "You were always right." 4 words, no explanation, no apology. Marla folded it, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Then why," she whispered, "did it take him so long to say it?" Life didn't go back to normal, but it went on. Miriam worked fast. Andrew's contest was withdrawn, his accounts frozen. The estate was ours again, though the word felt strange now. Like something cracked and sticky, Daniel came by most days, helped with the porch repairs, replaced a few windows, always brought coffee, but never stayed long. Marla didn't speak to him for a week. Then one evening she handed him something, the scarf, the one Andrew had stolen. "I thought you lost this," he said. She looked him in the eye. "I didn't keep it for you," she said. He nodded. Quiet. Abby had nightmares the first few nights. I stayed up with her, humming old lullabies. Her little body curled like a question mark. Then she started to draw. Pages and pages, crayon and pencil, sometimes ink. The lake. The cottage window. Trees and shadows, always with no faces. This morning, I found a sketch on my dresser. A woman in a green dress, standing by the water, head turned, waiting. I held it carefully. "Who's this?" I asked her. Abby stood in the doorway, chewing her lip. "She wasn't scared," she said. "She was waiting." "For who?" Abby shrugged. Maybe she didn't know. Maybe she did. That evening, I walked past the hallway photo wall, stopped cold. One frame was empty, the photo of all of us at the lake. Gone. And I hadn't taken it down. I pulled every box from the closet, checked every drawer. The lake photo was gone. Not misplaced. Gone. Marla found it first, under the floorboard in the guest room closet, wrapped in tissue paper. Someone had hidden it. Recently. The glass was smudged, one fingerprint, clear as day. Miriam took it to a friend in forensics. "Could be Andrew," she said. "Let's make sure." That night, Daniel stopped by late. He looked rattled. "I found something," he said, holding up a small black object. A flash drive. "Taped under my passenger seat. I never noticed." We plugged it in. Folders, photos, of our front porch, Abby on her bike, Marla checking the mail. All recent. I felt sick. "Andrew's in jail," I whispered. "Someone else took these," Miriam said, "or he had help." Daniel sat heavily on the couch. "Who would do this?" No one had an answer. Later that night, Miriam called. Print came back. "Andrew?" I asked. "No," she said slowly. "Not him. Not anyone in the system. Yet. I stood by the window, scanning the yard. "Someone we haven't ID'd?" I asked. "Yes," she said, "but we will." Then the lights flickered. A low hum filled the room. Outside, a car engine started. Close, too close. By the time we made it outside, the car was gone. Just tire tracks, fading taillights, and Daniel sprinting down the road. He came back 10 minutes later, breathing hard. No chance, no plate, at least not a full one. We gave what we had to Miriam. By morning she called with updates. Rented under a false name, she said. Tied to one of Andrew's old offshore transfers. Someone's still moving for him. I felt my knees weaken. "So, it's not over," I said. "Not yet," she agreed. While Daniel checked the windows and Miriam reviewed camera footage, Abby called to me from the yard. "Grandma, I found something." I followed her to the big oak tree, her favorite hiding spot as a toddler. She pointed at the dirt, where a small metal key poked out. I knelt, brushing it clean. We tried every lock we could think of. Nothing. Until I remembered the decoy box in the attic. We'd used it for old letters. It had a lock, long rusted shut. The key turned easily. Inside, a photo. Old, faded. My husband, Andrew, and a woman. Elegant, pale dress. Unfamiliar. None of us recognized her. On the back, my husband's handwriting. The first lie. Marla stared at it for a long time. "She's the reason this all started," she whispered. I nodded, heart racing. "Then we need her name." The grainy photo sat on Miriam's scanner. She tapped her keyboard. Eyes narrowed. "Let's see who she really is." A minute passed. Then her face softened. "Evelyn Parrish," she read. "Born 1955, worked in finance, implicated in a laundering case tied to one of Andrew's dummy accounts." Marla leaned in. "When?" "Disappeared in 93, Miriam said. "Presumed dead." I felt the room tilt. "Wait," I said. "My husband, he met me in 94. Miriam looked at me. "Then Evelyn came first." The first lie. Not about money, about love. Marla paced. "So he helped her vanish?" "He must have, I said. "And Andrew found out. That's why he always had leverage." Miriam pulled more records. An old P.O. box in another county. One linked to Evelyn. We didn't tell the others. Just drove. 2 hours, through winding hills. The cabin sat alone, half hidden by trees. Curtains drawn. I knocked. The woman who answered was older now. Tired, but her cheekbones matched the photo. Her eyes flicked from me to Marla, to the envelope in my hand. Then to the photo. She went still. "You're here about Martin," she said. I nodded. She opened the door. "Then you'd better come in."